Let's consider human rights in everyday life. Human rights aren't just abstract ideas. They affect real decisions in daily life. Let's consider some tricky situations. Should a journalist be free to expose government corruption, even if it embarrasses the authorities? Can the state detain someone without charge in the name of national security? Is it okay for a school to ban religious symbols to maintain uniformity? These are examples that show a central idea. Rights are powerful, but they're rarely absolute. Courts and lawmakers are constantly balancing individual freedoms against public interests like safety, order, or the rights of others. Studying human rights helps us see how these balances are struck and why reasonable people often disagree on the right outcome. So rights are powerful, but as I said, they're rarely absolute. So what does that word absolute even mean? Well, in this context, it means a right can never be limited or taken away, no matter what. But most human rights aren't absolute in that way. I mean, in real life, people's rights sometimes come into conflict with each other or with the needs of society, so it's necessary to place some limits in certain situations. Now, because of this, courts and lawmakers often have to balance individual freedoms against the wider public interest. I'll give you an example. A right might be restricted to protect public safety or maintain public order or safeguard the rights and freedoms of others. So let's consider freedom of expression. So that means you've got the right to speak your mind, but that right isn't unlimited. You can't go around inciting violence, for example, or spreading hate speech or making threats against other people. So in that case, you can see that there is a restriction that's been put in place to protect other people and keep society safe. So these limits are not meant to be arbitrary. Human rights law requires that any restriction is lawful, and this is important, that it's lawful, it's necessary, and that it's proportionate. We'll hear that repeated throughout the unit. The state must have a really strong justification for limiting a right, and it must also not go any further than necessary. So while rights are extremely important, they are not unlimited. Human rights law is about finding a fair balance between personal freedom and the needs of society as a whole.